We are live. Um, I'll give people a few seconds to start to log in. How are you ladies doing today?
Great.
Excellent.
Great.
Excellent. I think the other night, um, Dr. Williams asked me, he said, "How are you doing?" And I said, I think I said, "I'm doing well. I'm not going to complain." And he's like, "True. We can all complain." So
Yes.
I think he's going to join us in a few. Well, I just want to tell everybody again, thank you, ladies, for joining us. For our listening audience, I just want to let everybody know we have 3 new members of the group joining us this evening. We have Miss Carabo.
Yes.
Jeez, I'm red.
You did it good.
Okay. We also have Eve Rogers, who I know as Peaches.
Yes.
And we also have I call her my big sister, but she's my little sister, Deanna. So thank you all for joining us tonight for our women panel discussion. Trina and Corrine are going to join us as well. Are y'all ready?
Yes.
You sure you don't want to be on this side?
No.
We also have with us new as another member, Corrine, who's joining us with Pinky. Pinky, you should have had her name on your thing as well.
I didn't know we were on live, Debbie. I am so sorry.
Okay. So thank you all for joining us. So tonight last week we had a men's panel. And so today we're just going to touch on a couple of subjects. And one of the things I wanted to talk on, because it seems like this is becoming a thing. And then when I say a thing, it's something that we're now embracing. And we've been talking about it more and more. And I just seem to feel that we need to still talk about it. The importance of therapy. And again, therapy is in different forms. But I have never had formal therapy, I say, but this is my therapy. And fortunately, I get this a lot. God has allowed me to meet a lot of people and to speak to a lot of people. And that has changed me in terms of my perspective on all kinds of matters. So we'll just kind of go around the table, and I'll start with you, Miss Deanna. Yes. And basically the question is, have you ever had any formal therapy or any type of therapy? And what are your thoughts on it?
Good night. So no, I don't think I've had formal therapy, but I like we started talking about this. I was like, maybe I have. When I was in my 20s, I might have gone once. But I have over the years had professional and personal coaching, life coaching. And that's been really, really instructive for me. I recommend it highly to anyone. I think counseling is amazing. I have been a regular habitual journaler. And so that's in many ways been my counseling, just, every night before I go to bed, putting my thoughts down, my concerns, talking through it, meditating on it. So that's been really, really powerful for me. But the times when I have, made the decision to seek guidance, mostly through coaching, it's been really, really transformational.
I'm hearing a feedback. Let me ask you a question, my sister, in regards to the journaling. Deanna, I have 50 billion pads and books and all over. And I guess my problem, and this might be the Sagittarian in me, I'll write something, I'll start writing in one book, And then the next week I'm writing in another book. So that's something I have to work on for 2022.
No, I actually invest money in some really nice journals. So there's no like, half stepping with that. Like I think now have about 20 different, I probably could write a book, 20 or more different journals that I've piled on over the years, but it's a really like disciplined process for me. I don't like write in different, journals. There's one journal at a time. And so and what's really great about it is that as you go through life, there's always the opportunity to reflect and like, what were you thinking about at this time when you were going through this, challenge or this, great moment in your life? What were the things that you were documenting about, like how you were thinking and feeling at that time? So for me, it's really, really awesome to go back. I can go back 20 years or more.
Wow.
And think about and get to see, reflect on what I was thinking, how I was, talking about my life to myself. So for me, it's really, really, I think it is like and of course I was an English major, so it was a little easier for me to do it. I think writing is natural for me, but to be able to go back, I can think about a year and know exactly what journal that is and go back to that journal. And it's just, sometimes I'm like, wow, I was really enlightened at some points. And then I'm like, oh, the next, year is really, crazy things coming out of my mind. But at least I have a record of it. And I think that's really a great part of journaling.
Excellent. We can tell who's the structured one and who's not. But anyway, Eve, how about you? In regards,
just to piggyback on what Deanna said, I do journaling also, and I keep the journal right by my bedside because a lot of times my mind and dreaming about things, it's as if the Holy Spirit drops ideas in your spirit or words or phrases and things like that.
Or answers to questions.
Exactly. And then I'll wake up, I'll write it down, go back to sleep, wake up in the morning, then you'll see it, and then it comes back to your memory. So it's really been awesome. I love the concept of therapy. I think it is helpful. I think there's somewhat of a stigma attached to it, especially in the Black community. And it really shouldn't be that way. I believe with the COVID season that we're in, a lot of people are, though, seeking out help and assistance. Personally, in our family, yes, we have been in and out, dealing with therapy and just talking, because sometimes you just have to download, when you have dementia, Alzheimer issues, when you're caregiving, when you're dealing with foster kids or adopted kids, and a myriad of issues that may come up. One way is through therapy and through that whole family togetherness, so that you could just open up and state what your situation is. And so I just think it's important that it be looked at positively, because it definitely is something positive to do.
excellent.
Well,
go ahead.
Going off of what you said, Eve, I completely recommend therapy. I don't keep it a secret. I go to therapy every other week because it helps just clear my mind. It helps me feel calm and refocus and kind of get an understanding of what is important and what is not important, because I get lost in the weeds. I don't know if everybody else knows this, but if you have government Cigna, therapy is free. You don't have to pay for therapy. You just make an appointment. I know people may be freaking out about COVID and being in close proximity, but I actually go to my therapist via Zoom. So I don't even have to leave my job. I can go on lunch break and go in my car and sit and talk, and then go right back upstairs, and I've had my therapy. It's really not, you don't have to be mentally ill. You don't have to be on prescriptions, but I would say it's made a positive impact in my home life, in my relationships, at work, just in every way. So that's my 2 cents on therapy.
Excellent. How about Corinne?
Well, I did go to therapy just short term a couple of times. One worked, one didn't. But I've been thinking about this. My insurance covers it. So listening to you guys, I'm thinking that I should just do it since it's free, just to see.
Mhm.
Because I gave myself my own therapy. I read and I breathe and I pray, but you know what? It's free. Maybe I'm just going to do it, and then I can see what happens. Why not? Because I do a lot of things. I carry a lot of responsibilities, and I think I can handle everything. We all do, but maybe I don't know that I'm not handling it well. Maybe I don't know that, right? Because I think I am. I'm very relaxed, but maybe I'm not. I don't know. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and reach out when I get back next week, and I'll report back to you guys.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And also, I want you to also talk about how you found out with your daughter.
Oh yes. So I have a mini me. I think she's perfect. And then I was talking to her, and she tells me that she's going to therapy, and I'm like, therapy? I mean, my daughter? I mean, did I do something? Is she going to therapy because of me? I mean, she's perfect. How could she need therapy? And then I'm like, calm down, Kareem. This is probably a new way of life. She's in her early 30s, so I'm sure that it is the norm for them. She lives in California, so they tend to have different ways of looking at things, a little bit more open. I do need to ask her more, but I was concerned because I want my daughter to be okay, but she's fine. So I'm glad that she's open about it. But
Excellent.
but I was surprised. I didn't know that she had problems, but maybe she doesn't, right? It's just life.
Right. Because I think what some people don't realize too, therapy can guide you with your profession, with a whole lot of things. It's not just mental, as we know it, as mental health or a mental breakdown. It's sometimes used to give you direction on things that you're stuck in or stuck on, or just to give a vantage point that you didn't think about. So
And she's a professional and she's a deep thinker. And so I just didn't think that that would be something she would do. But I'm happy about it because again, if she thinks it would help her sort things out, why not? Why not?
exactly.
Yeah, because you don't self-destruct. You have like before you get to the point where you're making bad decisions because you're upset or you're happy, you're too happy. You're experiencing like high emotions, so you're not focused on or thinking clearly. They help you. They're like a neutral party who the therapist doesn't judge you. They don't have a vested interest in what happens. They're not telling you what to do. It's more of like a guidance, or have you thought about it this way? And my therapist also encourages me to continue journaling, praying, meditating, taking time out for me every morning. So it's an addition to the things that you already do to take care of yourself.
Sure. Excellent. Trina?
Yes, I've been to therapy few times in my life. I have done premarital counseling during marriage, did all that. It didn't work out too well. Then I did counseling on my own after Vince passed. I find that counseling is helpful. It can be helpful, but you have to want to take the counseling. If you're just going because you're sent or because your marriage is falling apart or because you have a problem and you're like, okay, I'm going, I don't see it being beneficial. It's beneficial when you want to go, when you want to make change, when you want to make a difference in whatever is showing up. I find counseling in many different areas. I journal. I've been journaling now for years. My journal is a prayer journal, though. I started off with a journal where I used to write, what my days was and stuff like that. And then it turned into a gratitude pray journal, which is still, to me, is still journaling because I look back and I look at things that I was praying for 10 years ago, and I'm like, wow, I came a long way. And I also do affirmations in that journal. I'm like, Deanna, you stick with one journal, you use it, you keep it by your side. You know, I keep it in my area. I have an area, a prayer area, a meditation area. And that's why I keep my journal and everything. I do everything all at the same time. But I wanted to add, Eve said last night that being able to speak out and to speak to someone is therapy. And I find that that is helpful. And I like what Kara said. Kay. I like what Kay said, because finding a safe place, like I said, I talked to Debbie, I've talked to many people, I talked to Corrine. Finding a safe place to speak, to be heard, is counseling. A lot of times, and men suffer from this a lot, they don't talk, they don't express themselves, they keep things bottled up inside. Yeah. Finding a friend, finding anyone, a mentor, finding a pastor, finding someone who's not biased, right, is good. But having someone to voice, to get it out of you, is therapy. So therapy can show up in many different ways. And that's what I want to focus, what my focus is on. Talk to someone, talk to anyone, you know, someone who's not going to judge you, somebody who's going to understand you. Because I find L&E is therapy for me. Allow me to voice some things, get some things out. And I find that the guests are also therapeutic to me. So there's different ways of getting therapy.
That is true.
One of the reasons why I'm bringing this up once more is, and I mentioned to everyone when we had our meeting last night, that a lot of times when we're reading some of the comments, people don't even realize that just their answer kind of tells you that maybe they're experiencing difficulties, or they haven't been able to, as Karabo said last night, let go of baggage and certain things. And it actually comes up in the comments. So my plea or challenge, I would say challenge to everyone, is to, especially if you're working somewhere and they offer that for free, just try it. Try it one time. And again, remember, you don't necessarily click with every therapist. So maybe if one kind of went, you know, a certain way that you didn't like, you can try another one. But I just say, you know, upcoming on 2022, why not try it? You know, it can't do nothing else but hopefully open you up, enlighten you, and maybe again create a new legacy for yourself and your family, your children. But I just think I keep hearing it, and I wanted to resonate one more time. I wanted to resonate with everybody one more time that why not? I haven't, but I will professionally. Okay, last night, one of the things we talked about, we have 3 of our members that are in relationships, and we have 3 that are in committed long-term relationships, and we have the other 3 that are on the journey, right? So I had posed a question saying, why are so many, and again, because this is a female panel, I asked the question, why are so many, it seems like there's so many single women. But in asking that question, a lot of things came up. And again, because of everybody's vantage point, where they stand in relationships, where they stand in their life and their careers. So I kind of wanted to change that question a little bit. I think at the end of the day, one of the things we talked about is that, and Deanna, I think you mentioned this, that at the end of the day, we all just really want love, to be loved. But are we willing to give it as well? And so if you're saying that you are single and you can't find someone, I think a lot of times we place the blame on the other gender that you're seeking, but a lot of times I think it lies within us. And so what would you ladies like to impart? And again, it doesn't necessarily have to be about relationships. We are in relationship with ourselves. We're in relationship with our family members. We're in relationships in so many different forms, our children, romantic relationships. But for people that are still seeking something, what would you like to impart? And we'll go down and come around. Corrine.
I mean,
Deanna's like, not me.
because like for me, when I think about why there's ladies are single, because I don't know about men, but I think is because sometimes we're angry, but we don't know that. We haven't worked through anger issues. It could come from parents, right? There's just baggage that you're not aware of. And the other person that you meet, they feel it right away. So they're like, ew. So sometimes it's that we still need to work through our own issues and we don't know it. And then another times is that we're not ready to really let somebody in just yet. So, and they need to be, at least for me, it needs to be someone who's spiritual, who's open, not backwards. So those are special people to find. It's not just going to be anybody. So it takes time. So that's just my thought. I don't know. I just know that no one wants to be with someone who's angry and is carrying baggage, because that's all you're going to talk about. No one wants that. So I'm going to work on being more aware of not doing that, because once in a while it creeps in. You think you work through something, and then comes this person that brings that out in you that you didn't know, that have those triggers. So I heard that you should be, you're aware that there's a trigger. It's not them, it's you. And then you need to disable that trigger, right? That button, and just work through it and keep moving, not ignore it. Those people that come in that cause you to have that feeling, there's a reason. It's trying to show you need to work on something. It's not really them. But anyway, so I'm trying to be aware of that every time that I feel like, hey, why did they say that? It's not them, it's me. So, but I want somebody else to speak.
Corrado.
Piggybacking off of what Corrine said, you have to feel to heal. And I think based on what we were talking about yesterday and my personal experience, there is no specific reason why people remain single, because they're good, they're wonderful, they're worthy, they're everything. I think it's just on your journey, and instead of contemplating why you're still single, think about focus on yourself, focus on what you still have to work on, focus on thinking about what it is that you truly want to be like what is your highest and best self, like what do you want to achieve for yourself, whether it be spiritually, mentally, emotionally, whether it's just as simple as peace, and then your partner, what partner in your mind would match that. And if you can visualize it, and yes, you can't create that partner out of thin air or out of anything like God did when he created the earth, but you can create something in yourself that raises your vibration, or that makes you more likely to attract that which is what you're seeking. So it all starts and ends with you. And when you're doing that, then you're more likely to sustain a healthy relationship, because when you're in the relationship, you're not going to be focused on what that person is doing or not doing. You're going to be focused on continually evolving and working on yourself, which in turn will help the relationship, and that person will feed off of that energy, hopefully. So yeah.
Cool. How about you, Eve?
All of those are great suggestions. I think the first thing I could say is you can't pour from an empty cup. And when you go in and out of relationships, a lot of times it could drain you. So I find it's very important that you get in touch with yourself first. I stated recently that it's not about you being 50% trying to meet somebody else who's 50%, and together you become 100%. You have to be whole, and therefore you will attract a whole person because you will know what it looks like.
Yes.
And then that's when it sparks. I was single for 40 years. I was a single mom for 14 of those years. Then I got married. We're celebrating our 22nd anniversary this month. And I'll tell you, there's a difference. I mean, I was out there having a good time, fornicating, you name it. I'll be transparent about it, because now that's a part of my spiritual tool chest to help other people, making them realize that the Holy Spirit, I had one of them come to Jesus moments, and he was like, if you would only stop your fornicating and whatever else and focus on me, I will bless you with who I already have for you. And I literally fell in love with God, and I know to some people that like sounds kind of out there, but for me it worked. And he just filled me. He filled the desire part of me. That spirit of lust was suppressed, and I channeled it into the word. And therefore, I was ready when I had a vision of who he had for me. And it was just really miraculous. And I always say, if it happened to me, he's no respecter of persons, it could happen to somebody else. So when I see the pain and the hurt that some people have, I think it comes from a position of lack. There is something lacking in your spirit, lacking in your psyche. And that's the tie-in with the therapy that helps, because you get to identify it. What kind of spirit is it? Is it a spirit of abandonment? Is it you had daddy issues, or something in your past that needs to be, you got to peel back the onion spiritually to get to the root. And then once you expose it, then you can deal with it. But yeah, I noticed there's a question about loving. The difference between loving another, loving self, sharing love. The root is love and love of self. Then you operate from the overflow. Then you could allow others into your life, and you could know what real love is. And when you're not getting it, don't settle for less. Don't settle.
Well said, Eve.
That was excellent.
That was good.
Amen.
How about you, my sister?
So what I said to you, Sissy, is that I don't know. I'm not going to give any single woman advice. I have not been single in 26 years. But what I think, the question that we had before about counseling, I think is how I'm going to answer this. Many of my counselors have been spiritual guides that some of them I've met, some of them I've not. They've been books that I've read by some of the most enlightened minds on the planet. And one of them, Louise Hay, who was really instrumental for me in the beginning of my spirit. I started a spiritual quest over 10 years ago. And it was 1 year of one of the most earnest spiritual journeys. And I remember her saying that there's a clear distinction between what you think you want and what you think. And that when you look at your life is a perfect reflection of what you think. And so I often challenge people to work backwards, to look at their life. And if their life is not pleasing to them, that it's an indication of the habitual thoughts that they're thinking that they may not even recognize that they're thinking. So they may say, I want a relationship, or I want a new job, or I want money. But if they don't have it, then there's something about how they're thinking that they have to address. And I really do believe that it's not about, like, the conversation about a relationship is in some ways a distraction from looking within and focusing on the work that we all need to do. We're always going to be works in progress. And I said last night that the same level of discipline that those of us who have gone to school, have been educated, or who have been at a job mastering, their work, the same level of discipline you give to that is the same level of discipline you need to give to self and to the spiritual journey that we all need to go through. And I think it's a very personal, private journey. And I think some people are, all of us are in some ways emotionally lazy, because it is like you have to have a lot of come to Jesus moments with yourself when you start doing that work. And the one thing that Louise Hay taught me, I got to meet her, and she's just, before she passed, she was just an incredible human being. But one of the things that she always said is that you have to be accountable for your life. And for me, that was like a moment for me, because I always wanted to say like, oh, the things that I'm experiencing that I don't like or I don't want is because of something else or someone else. Like, hey, look at that over there. It's not me. And she was one of those spiritual teachers that believed that we are all co-creators in our lives. And so if there's something going on that that's not pleasing to you, then you've got to own it. You've got to own that you created it, and you've got to figure out how to create something new. And so that's, I think, the work that we all have to do every single day. We're creating good, and I talked to you last night about my life coach. One of the first sessions that we had, she asked me to share with her what I wanted. What are my vision for my life, my dreams and aspirations. And I went through all these things, like I want this and I want this and I'm gonna hit my job. And like, it was like a lot of stuff going on at the time. And she said, so I'm going to ask you a question, and you've got to don't answer it right away, but just I want you to pause on it. But this is the question that you have to ask yourself. She said, did you decide? And I was like, and I said, what? And she said, the way that you wake up in the morning and you decide you want a cup of coffee, or the way you wake up one day and you decide you want a car and you go get your car. Did you decide that you really wanted those things? And I was like, I literally burst into tears, because I was like, no, I just wished for it. I want it. I say I want it. It's like, there's a wish list of things, but I never decided. And her lesson to me was that when you decide, nothing can stop you. So when you decide that you want something, you do the work necessary to achieve it. And that for me has kind of been, a guide for me in terms of how I think through challenges that I experienced in my life where, I'm not getting what I want. I have to own that, and I have to be accountable for that. And then I have to start doing work. And so I think that is a huge part of the journey for all of us that are seeking. We're all seekers. Is that it's work. It really is work. And oftentimes it has zero to do with another person. It is internal, personal, private work.
Trina.
Well, of course, Trina gonna see it from a little different angle, but that's just Trina way. For me, I've been single for 7 years, and within that 7 years, I had a relationship, a situationship, I don't know what you want to call it, in between that 7 years. And I realized that I attracted that situationship because I was unsure of the direction I wanted to go in. Because my original plan was to join a convent. There was no need for me to be in the relationship wall no more. I was just going to go and solve the lot and just be content for the rest of my life. It wouldn't walk. So, and God knew it wasn't gonna walk. And he was like, child, please, where you going? You ain't gonna fit in. You don't belong. Just go someplace else. He knew it wasn't for me. So he was like, forget that. And I spent those years. And another thing with being single for me was I had came out of a marriage that I was in for 25 years. I was in the relationship for 30 years. And so it was a long-term relationship. But I find out that the type of personality I am, I don't deal with relationships very well. Like, I'm a loner. I find contentment in being alone. And so I was unsure. That's why I thought I could be in a convent. But I find with my personality, I was like, okay, I done. But then I realized being in that situationship that no, you want a relationship, you want commitment. I attracted non-committal because I was non-committal. That's why I attracted that. But I needed that. I needed that relationship because it was that relationship that taught me what I was actually looking for. So what I'm saying is this, and it taught me the things that I needed to heal. And this was through prayer and doing the walk. Listening to Louise Hayes, doing the manifestation. I go back in my journal and I could see the affirmations, them that I was sending out at the time for what I wanted to attract. And I did attract that. And so I tell Debbie all the time, we have to be careful what we asking for and what we manifesting. Because we could say, oh, I want to manifest love. You can manifest love, but what does that love look like? We have to know exactly what it is that we're trying to manifest. Manifestation is not no jokey thing. What are you asking for? So I had to look at that. Okay, I want certain things and blah, blah, blah. So what I'm saying is we don't be in relationships. You don't get hot. I was angry, like Corrine said, very angry. I had to learn that. I had to see that by actually having gone through the experience to learn that. I was unsure of what I wanted. And because I was unsure, I manifested that. And that's okay also. Why I'm saying all of this is at the end of it, we have experiences to teach us. Every experience teaches us something. Nothing happens by accident. We all say that all the time. But then when we end up in a relationship that don't suit us or blah, 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 okay, it didn't happen by accident. Why did it happen? If you're a praying person and I's a praying person and anybody know me know I's a praying person, why did I track that? Why did God allow that in my life? It was there for a reason. He sent it for a reason. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for sending me that. Teach me what it is I need to know. No matter how difficult it is, no matter what we're going through in life. And so this is why I'm saying with us out here that single, seeking, whatever the journey is that you're on, wherever you came from, wherever you're going, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. Just sit still, figure it out for yourself. We talk about self-love. Last week, we were talking about self-love with the men. We're talking about self-love again with the women. What does self-love look like? A lot of times we think self-love look like, oh, I'm going to do my hair, I'm going to do my nails. That's not self-love, my loves. That's not self-love. Self-love is something deeper. Like Deanna said, we have to do the work. We have to figure this stuff out. We have to study it. If things are not going the way you want it in life, and I said, even for married people who are in marriages, if the marriage is not going the way you want it to go, dig deeper, look for the answers. The answers will come. Nothing we seek in life, nothing we ask, we don't find. Seek and he shall find. Look for it and the answers is going to come. That's my take on it.
Okay. Preacher.
As a single woman for 7 years, I got to learn something to teach somebody something. You know what I mean? I could get a degree in it.
I have something powerful to add to that.
Go ahead.
Because Deanna said earlier, which was so powerful, when was it a counselor who said, did you decide? And you see how you had a moment to really focus on what she said. And then what you were just talking about, Pinky. I remember, I'm going to go there. I remember I was dating this guy and he was separated. That word separated. Guess what? If somebody is separated, a lot of us miss the memo. They're still married, right? This was in my other life when I was single. And I told it, and of course the wife had gone away and was supposed to have a divorce, blah, 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 blah. Well, guess what? It never happened. And so I said, well, when is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? You keep saying it's going to happen. And a couple months went by, and it was a good friend of mine who knew both of us said, Eve, you got to realize no decision is a decision. No decision is a decision. If the person ain't make a decision, he's giving you the baton to make the decision. So especially as women in situations like this, and we wonder, why can't we have something for our own? You know, why can't he do this? Why can't he do that? It's not about him. It's about you. It's about, why are you tolerating this? And that's why I keep saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. There's something inside of you that's missing, and you're trying to sometimes fill it in the wrong places. And that's why it goes back to self-love, because other people may not make the kind of decisions you like, or they may not make a decision, period, and you're waiting. Well, guess what, honey? No decision is a decision, and you got to take the baton and run with it and focus on what is best for your life.
Yo, Eve, let me say this to add to that. When I was in that non-committal stage, and that's why I had to ask myself this question, I was only attracting married men. When I was in that non-committal stage of my life, one had left his wife, the wife left him for like 20 years, and he raised his children then, but he wasn't getting a divorce. And I kept him at a distance. There was nothing, you know. But I'm saying, I asked myself, why does all these married men keep coming? I asked Debbie, I said, you notice there's a bunch of married men coming after me? Like, what is going on that only married men were coming after me? Well, I had other guys too, but it was a lot of married people. And I was like, no, something ain't right here. And that's when I figure out, you are non-committal, Pinky. That's why you're attracting people who can't commit to you. It's safe because you ain't ready for a relationship. Yeah. So you're so right, honey. You're so right. And he was separated with his wife for like 20 something years. They were living in different states, but he won't divorce her.
Yeah.
Sure. One of the things that I wanted to also ask is, Karaba, last night you kind of touched on this, but I wanted to ask, I kind of want to ask two questions. We keep talking about self-love. Where did everybody learn self-love?
A book.
That's an issue. I don't think it's necessarily an issue, but I think, number one, it's the word that a lot of people use now, but where did you learn to love self?
I learned from a book. I was going through a breakup, and it was rather painful because he broke up with me, and I was like, how dare he? Look, I'm awesome. It was very painful, and I was at the lowest point in my life. And then I was like, you know what? What is love? Like, what is love really? And he had this book in his house, and I was sitting there. I thought we were getting back together, but we weren't. He was like, no, let's just be friends. It was like the worst decision ever, break up and then try a thing, you know? But God had it so there was like this book about love, and they were breaking down the agape love, friendship love, like the different types of love and how to recognize it, and what love is, what deep love is. And I was like, well, using all those examples of love, the love that only that God just gives, agape love, it's like what Eve described when she met her husband. It's like, wow, there's something just clicks, and you know that it's not natural. You know that was sent specifically for you. The friendship love is a love that we share with all of our friends, you know? So there are different types of love, and we have to figure out at what point, what are we ready for at what stage? At some of us, we're heartbroken. We're really only ready for that friendship love, but we're still thinking that we want this agape love, this deep love, but we haven't even searched within ourselves to figure out, how can if I can't give that agape love to myself because I'm so heartbroken, how am I going to receive it? Because you can't receive something when you're just still broken apart, because there's nothing to hold it. And you can't give anything when you're broken because there's nothing in your cup, like Eve said. So what I realized was that I had a lot of deep self-worth issues from a lot of things that happened in my past. And I had to just I took a year and I worked through it. And I didn't date. I didn't go out. I took myself out to dinners. I read a lot of the Bible. I just thought about a lot about myself and what was good for me and what I wanted love to look like. I wrote down kind of what I wanted the ideal person to be for me, but it was not like anything about looks. It was like his spirit, how he would make me feel, like a peace, wisdom. He would be able to share information, communicate clearly, be in touch with his own emotions, like just different things that I thought was important. And then I thought about what it would look like for me to be able to give love. Because for a long time I thought giving love was just about like pampering people and being a people pleaser. And people pleasing isn't love. It's painful because sometimes you're giving things that you don't have. So I had to turn around my idea of love in order to figure out like what the heck is going on. Why am I attracting these people? Why am I continuously hurt and broken? And eventually, after some time alone, I just kind of met my husband out of the blue. But it wasn't until we were, I think this is our 9th year married, that I'm realizing what love really is. True love allows you to transform. It allows you to grow. It doesn't want you to stay the same. It gives you that space to breathe, that space to be yourself, that space to become. And it encourages it, it nurtures it. It's just a safe space. It's sometimes it's peaceful, sometimes it's not peaceful. It's just, so my point is, when you're looking for love, think about what that means, what it truly, truly means, not what your friend told you love looks like in the relationship, not what you read in a book, not what you saw on TV. Like you have to search and study and really think about what that means for you, even in terms of what it feels like, what it looks like, and then how you give love too. So that's it's hard to pinpoint, but that's how it was a hard journey, and I'm still discovering it, and we're still working through it. But that's basically what love is. It sets you free, and it gives you a sense of peace that I can be myself and it's okay. I can be awful. I can fart and he'll still love me. You know. Yeah, like our first date, I ordered chicken wings. I did not care. I was like, if this man is going to be interested in me, he's going to love me no matter what. So I ordered chicken and I ate however I wanted to eat. And I belched. And he was like, oh my gosh, you remind me of my grandmother. Oh, this is wonderful. And it was so endearing to him, a belch. I mean, I was authentic, and he appreciated it, and I wasn't hiding it. I was just like, look, this is me, take it or leave it. I don't care, and so that's what it is. It allows you to just be you, and you don't have to, it doesn't mean you can be you and be rude and be crazy and never change and never evolve and just take it or leave it, but it allows you to be you and to evolve and to be your best self. And you allow them to be the same. So.
Excellent. Excellent. Anybody else want to take it?
I have to say something.
Mm-hmm.
So what the word that to decide, that has stuck with me since yesterday. So I have decided that I need to get back down on my knees and start praying again hard like I was after my breakup. When I had this, really, it was just the breakup just hit me so hard that I secluded myself for 3 months. But it was all about going inwards. Mm-hmm. It's all about, yes, he did whatever, but what about me? And it wasn't just about him, my family. I just went backwards. Like every single person in my family, I thought I was so perfect. Oh my gosh, I wasn't. I hurt them here, there. And it just took 3 months of just peeling like an onion. And not only was it me seeing myself, and I didn't like what I saw because I really thought I was great. I mean, it was a shocker to find out that I wasn't as great as I thought. And every day, several times a day, I find out another thing I was just not good. That I needed to continue to work, and how much mercy God has on us, because He's already forgiven us, and how I needed to forgive myself, right? And other people, because I'm not as perfect. And with that, I also lost weight. It was also, all that emotional plus physically losing all that.
And then lost so much weight that when she came in the door, we did not recognize her. We did not. I was like, who is that? We did not recognize her. She had lost so much weight.
But I had 50 extra pounds, but it was all, obviously, you're eating, but you don't realize that there's problems creeping in, and you just don't know it. And just doing that soul searching, reading the Bible, reading books, just spending time with me only, it was transforming. So then you get yourself, and this is where I'm at. I've got good control. I know what I'm doing. But now listening, I was brought back into this panel here as a reminder that I don't know anything still. And that I need to decide again certain things about my life, and I need to get down on my knees and go back to reflecting even deeper. I need to go back. Anyways, this is great. Thank you. Now I have more work to do.
I told you, Ellen. I told you that. It triggers you. You're like, no.
Deanna?
So we talk about self-love. For me, one of the things that happened, so what was really great when I went on my spiritual quest, didn't know it was a quest in the beginning, but it became a quest. And every book I read would lead me to either an actual physical spiritual teacher, or another book written by, a wise sage that became a spiritual teacher. And I met this woman. It was advertised as a meditation workshop here on St. Croix, and I went to it, and it was a woman. She was a Brahma Kumaris, which I didn't know. It's like a Hindu kind of spiritual teacher. And I was just, I was kind of open. I was just listening and really wanting to get better at meditation. I have a monkey brain. So meditation is really, really, it's actually comical for me. And so she agreed to work with, I think there were 4 of us, 4 women, for I think we did 6 months. Every Sunday we would all get together, and we would go to the labyrinth, or we would go to someone's house, and she would kind of coach us through this, this exercise of meditation. And she said, before she got started, she said, another one, there was a test. And so you have to answer the question. There's 2 options. Who are you? The question is, who are you? And she said, there's only 2 choices. One is your body, and the other is your soul. You can't be both. And I was like, okay. And I said, well, I'm gonna say soul. I'm soul. And she said, so if you're soul, you can't be attached to your body. And I remember thinking about that, and thinking about the whole conversation of self-love, that so much of the things that we don't love about ourselves are connected to body, right? Connected to the skin we're in. And I remember there was this okay, so that was this awakening for me. And concurrent with that, I was reading this book that had been on my shelf for some time, A Course in Miracles. I'd started reading it and put it, I was like, I don't know what that is. I wasn't ready when I first bought it. And then when she I started working with her, and she, gave me this quest, I started reading again, and it was, the whole concept of it is that we are light. We are points of light. That's all we are. That's all we are. We think we're people who have houses and cars and drive and have these jobs, but really we are points of light. And so when you talk about self-love, like for me, I remember I went through an entire year, every single day before I'd walk in my office, I'd walk down the sidewalk to get to my office. I'd be like, I'm the light of the world. I am like love. I am love. And I didn't believe it in the beginning, but I just said it over. It was like my mantra. And I remember that was me learning what love, like just a glimmer of what love really is. Like we put all these attachments to it about like a person or, an experience. And really it's
or our career titles, our job titles.
And it was, I am a point of light. I am a piece of God. I am light in the world. And that's what love is. And so I think for me, that helped me redefine love. I had like all these kind of like jumbled ideas of what love was and what love is. I'm still figuring it out. But for me, that was like a moment of clarity that like all the things we think love is are oftentimes misguided. They're informed by like what we've seen on TV or what we've, the dysfunction we may have seen in our families or in our, our parents' relationships. And for me to like just sort of like peel it away and just be like, I am light, and people who are light are attracted to light. And that for me was like, okay, that's what I want to look for, light in people. I don't want to look for, external, superficial qualities that like I have used to define what I feel is love. I want to, and I'm not just talking in like an intimate relationship, but just in relationships in general. Like, how do I look for the light in another person? And that for me has been really instructive. And I find it all the time. Like when I am attracted and drawn to people, it's always like I see their light. Like they don't have to be perfect. They don't have to be like, in a specific mold. I just like look for like, is there like a light in their eyes or in their heart that like I can connect with, my light can connect with. And so I know that sounds like really like, shishi foo, but that's, for me, that's been that book, that Course in Miracles, and it's like the Bible. It's like reading the Bible. It's really, it's kind of new agey. The authors say they believe it was like, I won't say it because it's controversial. But yeah, no, it's like, it's considered like the word of Jesus. Like, the Bible like doesn't fully have the voice of Jesus in the Bible to the degree that like, I think we all seek it. There are people talking about Jesus and their experience with him. Like there's no book of Jesus, for me, that would have been like, I think the most exquisite book of the Bible. And this one is sort of like, it really is just about love. It's a
deep teaching of it.
Deep teaching.
It's an explanation of it.
I want you to know that I've had tears in my eyes while you're talking about all of this. You're getting me all emotional.
No, it was
her down over here. I'm holding her knee and all kinds of stuff.
And I'm normally not emotional, but this is just a beautiful conversation. This is real.
No,
this is what matters.
Girl, I be crying.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I took it, the book. You're supposed to take a year to read this book. It's, it's a very big book, and I couldn't put it down. And it was like reading a love letter from God. Like for me, that's how it felt. And so when we talk about love, like we can talk about it in terms of intimate relationships, but for me, it was like something bigger and deeper. And I lose sight of it at times, and I have to go back and remind myself, like Debbie, you said, repetition, and talk about the discipline with which we do other things in our life, but lack that kind of discipline when it comes to self-care and self-love and emotional and mental and spiritual growth. And so for me, it's like I just feel like this is a beautiful, ongoing, forever journey. Like that's to me what love and life is. And you just are always forgetting and then remembering and then growing. And then like, you have setbacks and you have to, and every time I like take a step forward, I'm like, oh, this is actually kind of exciting. This journey, even when you're struggling and you're going through crisis or challenges, if you can center like God, spirituality in the journey, it can actually be really, really an exciting experience to move through a challenge with, with spiritual guidance and support. And so that for me is when you talk about self-love, it's a hard question for me to answer, but I feel like I wanna, my impulse is to separate that question from the kind of physical love that I think everybody defaults to often when we speak about love.
Excellent. How about you, Eve?
Where do I begin? I mean, that's awesome. That's awesome. Piggybacking on you, your identity is in Christ. My identity is in Christ. God loves unconditionally. So no matter what you've been through, no matter where you came from, he loves you. And if you could identify with that kind of love, it will save you from doing a whole bunch of damage to yourself. So 2 words, you matter. I matter. So if you've never done it before, there's a great exercise to do because it freed me when I was 40 years old. Look in the mirror and look at yourself and just say, you know what? I love you. Let me tell you, the first time I did that, I got so emotional because the eyes looking back at me were like, you talking about me? Really? Yes, you. I love you. And I'm telling you, it was as if I was speaking to somebody outside of my body. And you know why? Because we are everything to everybody else. But what are we to ourselves?
Right.
And especially when we are like single mothers, you have 2, 3, 4 kids, you got to pay the bills, you got to cook, you got to this, you got to that, you got to put them to bed, and then you're exhausted. And then the next day come and you're doing the same thing again. And then the weekend come, you have PTA meeting, the church want you to do that, blah, 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 blah. And it's that way every single day. And then when you put a relationship on top of that, you want that person to want you more, but do you want you? Do you know you? And so it starts with really getting to know you as a person and realizing that you matter. Yes, I'm worth going to get my nails done sometimes. I'm worth stopping and fixing a tub bath and putting up a sign saying, I don't want nobody come in this bathroom to bother me. So all of a sudden when you start building yourself up that way, your energy level increases and you charge your own battery, and that is what attracts the energy from other like-minded people. But when you have a low negative flow, you're going to attract that negative flow. Just like you were talking about earlier, Pig Hewitt. You attracted all these married men. It's like, what's up with that? Yeah, go back. You matter. Look yourself in the mirror. Start developing a relationship with you. And I'm telling you, you're going to be there talking to yourself sometimes like, I can't believe I did that such and such today. Really? Hey, you got to get it together, sis. Yeah, we're going to get it together. All right. You start talking. Same way you talk to God. It's a spiritual thing. So it's all intertwined. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a lifelong process, but it is so worth it. I love that phrase, life is good. There's a company that sells t-shirts, hats, and all it says is life is good, and it's so true. But it is what you say it is. Because everybody and their mother going to be telling you what they think you are, but what we don't realize is the perspective that they're telling you that for. Usually they don't like you, or they want you to feel some kind of way because they feel some kind of way.
Or they want to change you.
Yes, you can't receive that on yourself. And the only way that you could really fight against it is by knowing you, knowing what you like, and therefore you become a better you, and then you start attracting more positive energy around you. Try it. Try it.
Again, a second challenge. I heard something. I was listening, I think it's the radio, and there was a lady on, I don't remember her name right this minute, but she talked about the high five challenge or something. You go in the mirror and you high five yourself and you say something about yourself that you like. And the more and more that you do that, again, you don't become a reflection of what other people think you are. You see who you really are and be honest with yourself. And I think that, again, self-love comes in so many different shapes and forms, but I think it's something that we really need to practice. And I know that we've had Shelly on before, who works for Women's Coalition. And one of the things she talked about is it's what have we told ourselves from children, you know? And so that's something that I try to tell my children all the time, you know, with challenges and everything that you've gone through in life. At the end of the day, you got to love you. And you got to, I had to learn that, because I can tend to be a people pleaser, and constantly work outside of myself. And I have to kind of like reel myself back in. So like everybody's saying, it's a daily thing. And you just got to do this for your life, you know. But I really think, especially for our young people, because of course now we're at the enlightened stage of our life. A lot of us are going towards that direction. But I think for young people, especially with so much in our faces with social media, and people create this facade, you really honestly have to focus on self and shut down some of that, and just truly work on loving you and accepting you for who you are. Pinky, you wanted to say, but did you say something?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Deanna, she'd have just spark all these things, because we'd have just have these. My first spiritual teacher, we started this journey, I don't know how many years ago. Celestine prophecy changed our life forever, right? But the self-love journey was one of the most difficult for me. Because like Debbie, I was a people pleaser for years. And it's like Eve said, you have kids. I have 4. I had 4 kids, a husband that was sickly. Everybody I always needed was pulling on me, and I was always there. And the self-love journey didn't come until after my husband had passed away. No, it started right before he passed away. It happened when I get a stroke. That was the awakening, was the stroke, because the strokes just stopped everything, and I was able to stop, and I couldn't do anything. So I was able to do a lot of reflecting. And it's like Corinne said, saw some ugly things about self, right? And that's the self-love journey. Seeing the ugly things about self, accepting self. Loving self is forgiving self. Accepting all your parts. Back in the days, I used to be the domestic engineer. You remember that was my title? My title because people would ask you, what do you do? And I was a housewife. On the journey, I remember one of the books I read, I can't remember. They were like, who are you? I remember that question. I can't remember which book I read it. And I was like, who am I? Well, and it was like, I guess it was Louise Hay's book. And it was like, you're not what you do. And I was like, so if I am what I do, then who am I? What am I? Right? So to me, the journey starts even when you are not aware that you are on the journey, just being a seeker. Because this was way back when. I was a domestic engineer when my kids were babies. Then I went from a domestic engineer, and I keep demoting myself. I went down to a housewife, to a stay-at-home mom. And now most of the time, so if you asked me yesterday what I do, and I kind of like stopped for a minute, and I was like, it's a question I really do not like to answer. And because it takes me back to that, right? So I always get still in that question when people ask me. And a lot of times people will ask me, so what you to do? And I just, I don't do nothing. Who are you? I'm nobody, right? And people always took that to mean you putting yourself down. That's not what I was doing. I don't want you to know me based on titles. I don't want you to know me and accept me based on what I do, who I am, what I have. If you could know me and accept me based on just Pinky, then me and you starting off on a good footing. And so that's when the journey actually started for me, from the domestic engineer to I am nothing. I am nothing and I am nobody. Because in the big scheme of things, we are nothing and nobody. Okay, when we compare ourselves to the vastness of this universe, who truly are we, right? We are made in the image of God, yes. We are children of God, so who am I? CC, teach me. I am. I used to be, I am enough, I am this, I am that, I am. No, I am just simply, I am. I am who I am. That's what the Bible teaches, right? That's who we are. We are children of the Most High God. That's who I am. That was when the journey continued for me. But what hit me was in these last couple of months when I had to decide, Pinky, what are you going to do for the rest of your life? What do you want? And you have to choose. And you have to protect yourself now. And that's when it started, because that's when it hit me, like, we don't protect our children. We want the best for our children. But what about ourselves? And I asked myself, like, you want that for your child? If you don't want it for your child, then why you want it for you? Because I know it is to love my children, and I love them unconditionally. If I don't want that for my children, or I don't want my children to go through certain things, then why would I want that for myself? And that's when the light bulb went off like nothing else. You matter so much that what you want in life, no matter what it is, it matters. And you have a right to want it. There is nothing wrong with wanting it. It's nothing wrong with having a desire. It's nothing wrong with the things that you want. And if other people tell you there's something wrong with that, then I gotta let you go. I don't care how important you may think you are. If you're gonna diminish me as a human being and tell me that I am not enough, then I got to let you go. And that's when that light bulb hit me. Like, I don't know, like, unlike anything else. Choosing ourselves above everything else, like you said, Eve. If I want to take a bubble bath, I take in a bubble bath. If I want to spend money and buy clothes, I buy clothes. If I want to buy lipstick, if I want to do my hair, I want to do it. I want to do it. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to think about it because I don't do it for my kids. Why wouldn't I do it for me? And if I don't want to do it, I ain't doing it either. If I want to be barefoot, I'm going to be barefoot. If I want to wear makeup, I do. If I don't, I don't. To me, that's self-love. Don't tell me don't wear makeup, don't wear lipstick. No, I'm going to do whatever I want. It's my life. Let me live it. Like Karen said, I close to dead. So you know what? Let me just enjoy my life. That's Karen's thing. We close to death. Every day we live, we closer to death. That's just the fact. Every single day we live, we are getting closer. From the day we born, we closer to death. Accept it or not. It's our choice.
But in a way, there's no such thing as death.
And that's true too. That's
right.
Yeah, so let me enjoy this pinky body.
Yes.
I want to enjoy the pinky body. I want to enjoy the pinky journey. And I always tell people we are human being having a spiritual, we're spiritual having a human experience, right? So let me enjoy the humanness. Whatever I come with, if it come with some suffering, I'm going to take that. If it come with pleasure, I'm going to take all of that. You know, that's the journey. If I want to eat, I'm going to eat. Chocolate cake, I'm going to eat it. And that's just where, and that's where the self-love come. I ain't questioning myself. I ain't fighting myself. I ain't going through all of that. Just let me enjoy life.
Cool. Well, we have 15 more minutes. I was going to ask a question, and maybe I can ask it, and we can kind of end it with this. What do you think stops people from healing and not moving on in regards to anything? Of course, for a lot of people, it's relationships. For a lot of people, it's just it's career. It's whatever. What do you feel stops people, and how do you think they should start to look at it? Because I always want to end with giving people a tool.
I'll start with that one. I just think suffering serves them. So suffering serves them. So, I mean, I think that's the only reason why people don't heal is that it serves them. There's some pain, pleasure in the pain. There's some addiction to the, I mean, for me, when I'm in pain, I just leave me alone and let me like wallow in it. You know what I mean? And I think for some people, like, you know, one of the things in the Celestine prophecy that I've taken with me, there's a lot that I've left back there, but there's was talking about how people get energy, and that there are these 4 types of people. So there's the poor me, that they get energy from being in pain, and that the people who cater to that feed them. There are people who are the intimidators, and they're like the big gruff people, and they pull energy from people that way. And then there are people who are the inquisitors. I can't remember the names of them, but I think that there's some people get stuck in it because it's and I can only speak for me, like how I have, when I have been in suffering and I've been in pain, I don't think there was a lot anybody could say to get me out of that. Like there was a little bit of like, I'm gonna wallow. I'm gonna like be in my misery for as long as I need to be in my misery. And some people would be like, Deanna, you know, you gotta like, you know, pull yourself out of it. And there was energy in that. There's energy in people like paying attention to you when you are in suffering and you were in pain. There's and then there's some people just not having tools. I feel really lucky because I think part of the spiritual journey is to build like your toolkit, so that like, and build it at times when you're not in absolute crisis, so that like when you do get in crisis, you know that you've got these tools to draw on to pull yourself out of it. But I think some people are, it's part of their persona. It's part of their, you know, it's part of how people see them and meet them. And I have a friend who, Debbie knows this, that she was like, Deanna, don't ever be a counselor, which is why I will never be a counselor.
I know exactly what you're getting ready to say.
Oh my God. And then Debbie became like, Debbie knows. And it was like every single conversation was like really depressing. And it was like you couldn't talk them out of it. It was like just sucking energy from you. And I knew that it was because they needed that energy. Like I came to them not as weak or not as in crisis. And so I would just be a sounding board. But after a while, it started like sinking in to me. And I was like, so I gave her some really bad advice one day. But I gave her some really, really bad advice where Debbie was like, do not go into counseling.
Yeah.
And
no, she was going to say something that.
Well, yeah, I did say it. But guess what? Like it stopped. Like it's like there was a hard stop to like the wheel that she was on. But I think some people, like for me, when I get in my space, I'm like, I just got to crawl myself out of it. And sometimes it takes, you know, a week, sometimes it takes a day, sometimes it takes months. But it's just, it's my journey. And I'm grateful that I have a lot of tools. I have done enough work that I have tools to pull myself out of those spaces. Some people don't, but I think some people, it becomes a part of how they identify themselves and how they present themselves to the world.
Excellent. Corrine.
Well, I think that some people, sometimes it's hard to go there. So you just stay busy. So you don't grow because sometimes you don't know where to start. We're lucky that we have mentors, we have books, and we're just naturally seekers. Some people have no idea where to go, so they're just going to stay busy because they can't change anything. And it just plays over and over. So for me, I like to think that I allow myself a day. I don't like to do more than that because I don't want to waste too much time because I need to keep moving forward, right? I can revisit it the next day, but just for a small amount of time. Now, the breakup did take me it took me to stop everything for 3 months. So that was it was 24/7 in the closet with my Bible. It just really put in the work full time. But that's not the norm. But I'm lucky in that sense that I know there's greater. I know we're here for something bigger and that I have to heal. This is happening so I can dig deeper. So I just hope that people will stop and just reflect and search. And yes, get back to work, but get back to it again because it's important. Otherwise, you get stuck and life is good. So, yeah, I feel bad for the people that can't get out of that. Just can't get out.
Excellent. How about you, Eve?
It goes back to what I said earlier about you matter, getting to know you. And Deanna, you are on point in saying there's pleasure in the pain. My question is, what is your pain feeding? What is your bitterness feeding? And it comes all the way back to unforgiveness. If you peel back the onion and you go back in your life, there is something that happened back there where you got stuck. For me, it was coming from a family of 8 kids, me being one of them, and my dad leaving when I was 13. I didn't see him as leaving the family. I saw him as leaving me. So that spirit of abandonment was there for years. And the bitterness, the anger. And then you get into these dysfunctional relationships where you're trying to, it's like you're looking for love in all the wrong places. And when my dad ended up years later coming to live with me for a whole year, it was dramatic. But I learned about what he went through. See, a lot of times the stuff that you go through with your family is because of stuff they went through when they were younger.
Exactly.
Right.
You can't give what you never got. See? And before he died, I forgave him. I said, you know, Dad, I forgive you. And guess what? A crazy thing happened. It freed me. I not only freed him, but I freed myself. And I said, wow, I like this deal. You free somebody, but you free them from whatever by forgiving, and then you get free. And I tell you, this whole spiritual walk, it works. It works. So every day I read Psalm, Proverb. There's a proverb for every day of the month. And God speaks to you in that word for every day. And you can read it over and over and over every year, and you see something you didn't see before. And then something happens during the day that the word you read that morning prepares you for. And I just love it. It's a great walk. I see a lot of hurting people out there. I pray for them. And if God sees fit for them to cross paths with me, I talk to them, minister to them, pray over them. And then when God works something in their life and they'll call me back up, Eve, you won't believe what happened. And I just smile saying, look at God. I just love the way he works. So yeah, unforgiveness. Go out there and forgive somebody. Pick that phone up and call. Maybe it's your mother, dad, or whatever. It'll work.
Excellent. I received that. How about you, Bravo?
Well, my lesson of the week, there's always a lesson of the week for me. It's projecting my past onto my present. So something happened in the past that hurt me really bad. I'm like beating myself up. Oh my God, you're so stupid. And how could you let them do that to you or talk to you that way? And you know better. And if it happens again, and if I meet this type of person with this type of vibration or this type of energy or talking to me this way or doing this to me in this way, then I'm going to do X, Y, Z, or I'm not going to let it happen. But what if the person in the present that you perceive that their behavior is similar or triggers something to you, here it comes back again to our trigger, they trigger you. What if that person isn't even doing any of that stuff? What if you are just putting the pain of the past on your present and just messing it all up instead of taking away your trigger, finding out what triggered me, what did this person do that triggered me, and what do I need to do to fix it so that I don't keep reliving the same scenarios and think that people are after me, or thinking that people are out to hurt me, or thinking that I only attract this type of person. So the reason why we can't heal is because we're being ruled by our triggers. And painting our present with the past when we don't even need those tools anymore because we already learned the lesson. That time that the person hurt you and you healed and you went through whatever you went through, you've learned. If you really went through it and you felt the pain and you healed from it, you've already had the tools that allowed you to heal from it. So I think we just need to let go of some unnecessary fighting tools, some unnecessary walls in order to forgive, and in order to have a better relationships and not be triggered. So
Excellent. Excellent. Everybody's excellent. I know for me, one of the things I tell my children, do you want resolve or do you just want to vent? You know, because I think there's a lot of people, what keeps them stuck is they want to keep reliving, like Dennis, they're getting something out of it. They want to keep reliving it. They want to keep talking about it because of whatever energy they're getting back from doing that. But at the end of the day, if you want to grow, if you want better, if you want to achieve things and attain things that you didn't have, you have to say to yourself, what do I need to do to resolve this? I don't want, I can't stay in I don't like the energy I feel hearing, like staying in the problem. And so for me, I tell people all the time, if you don't want to be in this situation anymore, you know, Pinky says, like, I'm like a dude, right? Things happen. I might get mad. I'll vent. Pinky will hear me. My sister will hear me. I have a couple other friends that will hear me. And then honestly, like, I'm done. Like, I'm done. Like, if I can't change it, if there's nothing I can do about it, if I had to learn something from it, I just go on, because we can't get back time. You know, I'm 35. That is what I'm saying.
Your birthday was just Saturday?
I am 30. Yes, right.
Oh yeah, because you were 34. I forget. Like, exactly. I don't know how old you be. Sorry,
exactly. I'm 35.
Okay. Yeah.
My thing is, I can remember when I was at Montessori school. So I was 3 years old. So time goes so quickly, and if you sit in the problem, you waste so much time, and it doesn't make sense. And the time now is flying. It's not like a long time ago. Like, we're already in 2022 basically. So for me, what I tell people is, you know, do whatever you got to do to get out of it, learn from it, and move on. You know, it just does not make sense to stay stuck. And that's my little tidbit. Pinky,
I can just add a little thing out there for some people, because I know some people who are stuck in pain. And I think too, a lot of time why some people are stuck in pain is because they are afraid if they acknowledge the pain, it dismisses the people who hurt them, and that their pain wasn't real, or that their suffering wasn't real. And I think sometimes because they keep feeding that pain, because they telling themselves that it was real, and they can't let it go. And that takes some walk. They take some walk to let that pain go. I remember years ago on Oprah show, they had somebody who was raped, and she had to go she went into prison and forgive the person who raped her. And I was like, who could do that? And I remember that was the first. I look at that and I was like, how could you forgive or let go? Because I look back now and I could see the reason, if I was in the shoes, the reason I probably, because I saying, okay, it's okay for what you've done to me, which is not okay, right? But that's when I look back, right? And so I'm saying that's why some people cannot heal. That's why some people stay in the pain, because they don't want to not say that this did not happen to them. Or I hope I say that they're right, you know, but to acknowledge that it happened is to stay in that pain and hold on to that pain. You did this to me, mommy. You did this to me, daddy. You did this to me, ex. You, whatever it may be. And so I just here to say, like Eve said, forgive, let it go.
Mhm.
And then, like Debbie said, life is too short. There is no need to hold on.
Mhm.
There's no need to hold on to it.
Well, I am proud. Like we ended on time.
Oh, yeah.
I want to thank you guys. Again, I think you have touched some viewers. I know you have, and I'm praying that in the future, others will get the opportunity to see this engagement and glean from it, learn from it, rise above. And so I want to thank Kareem Carabo, Peaches, my sister, who finally decided to come on.
And she will be back, she promised.
I want to thank all of you so very much for just imparting your wisdom and your experience with us all and leaving little nuggets for everyone. You guys don't log off when we end. But I want to tell everybody, please continue to be safe. Have a great rest of your week and have a wonderful weekend. And we'll see you back here next week, Thursday.
Yes, thank you guys for coming on. Thank you for your insights. Thank you for everything.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.